Casualties of Fame. The Wreckage of Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo's Love. In the glittering high-stakes world of Hallyu, where stars are born from dreams and legends are etched into the spotlight, few names shine as brightly or as enduringly as Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo. To the world they were royalty. He, the iconic heir of Boys Over Flowers. She, the timeless muse of autumn in my heart and full house. Their individual paths were paved with gold and adoration, a testament to talent and an almost otherworldly grace. But somewhere, in the hushed silence between the camera flashes and the roaring crowds, a different story was written. A story not of glory, but of a love that became the most heartbreaking casualty of their fame. It began not with a grand declaration, but with a quiet understanding. In an industry where genuine connection is a rare currency, they found solace in one another. It was in the shared glance across a crowded room at an awards show, a silent acknowledgement of the unique pressure they both bore. It was a whispered conversation at a charity gala, a fleeting touch that spoke volumes where words would be too dangerous. For them, love couldn't be a loud, celebrated thing. It was a secret garden they tended to away from prying eyes. A private joke, a hidden dinner, a drive under the cover of night where, for a few precious moments, they weren't Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo, global superstars. They were just a man and a woman, tentatively, fearfully, falling in love. Their love was built in the stolen moments. A scarf gifted for the winter, a song listened to simultaneously in different cities, a book passed between them, its margins filled with notes only the other could understand. It was a fragile, beautiful thing, nurtured in the only soil they had, secrecy. They were two stars aligning in a private universe, and for a time, its light was enough to eclipse the immense weight of the world outside. But fame is a jealous god. It does not share its idols willingly. The first crack appeared not from within, but from the outside. A blurred photo. An insider tip. A rumor that began as a whisper and quickly grew into a deafening roar. The world that had adored them separately suddenly turned its hungry, relentless gaze upon their private sanctuary. The narrative was no longer theirs to control. It was twisted, sensationalized, and torn apart by headlines and online forums. Their every move was dissected. Their pasts were raked over for clues. Their futures were written for them by a million strangers. The immense pressure began to form fissures in their foundation. Whispers of publicity stunt from his camp, questions of appropriateness from hers. The very agencies that had built them up now calculated the risk this romance posed to their pristine, individual brands. Scheduled meetings were postponed. Joint projects they had dreamt of were suddenly not a good fit. The love that had been their refuge was now being treated as a problem to be managed, a crisis to be contained. The weight of it all became a chasm between them. Where there was once easy laughter, there was now the tense silence of unspoken anxiety. A simple text message was no longer a token of affection but a potential security risk. A public appearance became a strategic nightmare, their eyes carefully avoiding each other, their bodies angled away to avoid fueling the speculation. The love that had felt so real and powerful in the shadows now withered under the harsh, unforgiving glare of the spotlight. They were no longer fighting for their love. They were fighting against the world, and the battle was tearing them apart from the inside. The end was not a dramatic explosion, but a quiet, devastating surrender. It was the realization that their love, however pure, was not stronger than the machinery of fame that surrounded them. To protect each other, from the scrutiny, from the hate, from the constant pressure, they had to let go. The final conversation was likely not filled with anger, but with a profound, soul-crushing sadness. It was an acknowledgement that the very things that had brought them together, their art, their fame, their place in the world, were the very things that made their love impossible. And so they walked away. They returned to their gilded cages, to the scripts, the cameras, and the adoring fans. They became legends, yes, but legends with a ghost living in the quiet moments. To this day, a certain song, a phrase, a cityscape at night, might bring it all back, the memory of a love that was sacrificed on the altar of fame. The wreckage is not in public scandals or angry interviews. It is in the subtle, heartbreaking details. It's in the careful way they navigate the same industry events, a masterclass in polite avoidance. It's in the roles they choose, perhaps infused with a depth of sorrow they now understand intimately. It's in the way their fans still wonder, still piece together clues from old interviews, sensing a lingering sadness behind their beautiful, composed smiles. Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo gave the world everything. They gave us stories that made us believe in love, in heartbreak, and in redemption. But the greatest story they ever lived, a story of a fragile, secret love, was one the world was never meant to know. And in taking it from them, the world left behind a silent wreckage, a beautiful ruin of what could have been, a permanent testament to the devastating price of the spotlight. They are, and will always be, the magnificent, tragic casualties of their own fame. The Heir, a vow of silence broken. For years, the story of Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo existed as a ghost in the halls of K Entertainment, a tragic, whispered legend of a love sacrificed to the spotlight. The world moved on. They became immortal icons, their past connection fading into a melancholic footnote. But some silences are not meant to last. Some graves are meant to be opened. The first crack in the carefully constructed piece was not a tabloid headline. It was a single, grainy photograph, leaked from a private hospital in Seoul. It showed Song Hye-kyo, not in the glamorous setting of a film premiere, but pale and anxious, leaving through a back entrance. The date on the photo's metadata was 9 years old. The speculation was immediate, but it was a blind, chaotic noise. Until a shadowy online account, known only as The Chronicle, began to connect the dots. The Chronicle's first post was a masterpiece of suspense. It didn't accuse, questioned. It juxtaposed the hospital photo with a timeline. Lee Min-ho's sudden, unexplained hiatus for exhaustion that coincided almost exactly with Song Hye-kyo's disappearance from the public eye. It wasn't proof. It was a trail of breadcrumbs leading into a dark forest. Then came the second post. A scanned image of a torn, handwritten note. The writing was elegant, unmistakably familiar to fans who had seen Lee Min-ho's script notes. It contained only a fragment. "My greatest regret. I see her eyes in his every time I close my own. I failed you both." The internet erupted. Her eyes. The implication was a seismic shock. The tragic love story was no longer just about a breakup. The whispers became a roar. Was there a child? The narrative exploded from a sad romance into a high-stakes thriller. The agencies, which had once managed the scandal with cold efficiency, were now scrambling. Their denials were swift but brittle, lacking the conviction they once held. The public sensed the panic. The thriller deepened when the Chronicle released an audio clip. The quality was poor, muffled, as if recorded from a great distance. But the voices were chillingly clear. A man strained with emotion, Lee Min-ho's voice. "They can't ever know. It's the only way to protect him." A woman's voice, trembling with a fury that could shatter glass. Song Hye-kyo's. "Protect him? You call this protection? This is a prison. He has a right to know his father." The secret was out. The love affair had not just ended in heartbreak. It had produced a son, hidden from the world for nearly a decade. The wreckage was not just emotional. It was a living, breathing person. But the Chronicle was not finished. The final post before the account vanished was the most terrifying of all. It was a single sentence. The greatest threat was never the public. It was the deal he made to keep the secret buried. Ask him about the eternal contract. The suspense now took a dangerous turn. What was the eternal contract? Was Lee Min-ho not just a victim of circumstance, but a man who had made a Faustian bargain with powerful forces to conceal his child? Was Song Hye-kyo not just a grieving lover, but a mother fighting a silent, terrifying war against an unseen enemy to reclaim her son's truth? The story was no longer about a scandal. It was a battle for a child's future, shrouded in corporate conspiracies and blackmail. The wreckage of their love was now a battlefield. The cliffhanger hangs in the air, more thrilling than any K-drama. Who is the Chronicle? A vengeful insider? A betrayed bodyguard. The child's nanny. Where is the child now, and what does he know? What unspeakable terms are contained in the eternal contract that could bind a man like Lee Min-ho to a lifetime of silence? Is Song Hye-kyo's career, her entire public persona, merely a carefully maintained facade behind which she plots her next move? The world watches, breathless. The cameras are no longer pointed at red carpets, but into the shadows, waiting for the next move in a real-life thriller where the stakes are higher than any box office record. The legacy of Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo is no longer just about the love they lost, but about the devastating, explosive truth they were forced to hide. The silence is over. The reckoning has just begun.